wonder if there's an element of training. I mean, why did you stop working?
Well, like I really wanted to go back to Disability Foundation actually, but
Right.
very soon after well, not very soon, but within a few months of finishing there, actually the main coordinator that ran the program, he ended up passing away from cancer, and so they had a whole kind of reshuffle there. And they were, for all intents and purposes, kind of shut down for quite a while. And then after that, COVID hit. So then they were shut down even kind of more than that, right? And so kind of COVID the last couple of years, I just got busy doing other things, and I haven't really bothered to go back to work. And I'm still trying to find that good fit again, right? And I just haven't really found that fit again. So, and I just find that I'm busy enough as it is. If I find a fit again, I would consider going back. But I'm a parent too. Of my son is 13, so he keeps me busy as well. So,
are you you're with a partner? Are you?
Yeah. I remarried about 3 years ago. My first wife passed away in 2013. So I was a single dad for a while. Like, my first wife passed away when my son, he wasn't even 5 yet. From about age 5 to age 12 or so, I was doing basically everything. And that was cool. I didn't mind that, but I mean it's a lot of work. So
yes,
it's a lot of work to juggle all that.
Yeah. And how does your son? Is he a well person?
Oh yeah, he's totally able-bodied, and he's just a lot of fun. I often, I just realize how much of a blessing he is, because he really has kept me grounded. I mean, again, when my wife passed away, it's this is gonna sound kind of weird, but I wanted to kind of grieve. I wanted to be able to grieve, but then of course my son was so small then, and he required so much attention that it didn't really allow me to. But in a sense, it was okay, because it was a distraction to keep me going and focused on other things.
Well, and you had to deal with his grief too, of course.
What's that?
You had to deal with his grief too, of course.
Yeah, well,
where's my mommy?
But that was the weirdest thing, though, too, because he was young enough that he didn't really understand. I mean, for quite a while. So, like, he was just carrying on as normal, and I wanted to grieve and kind of, he was just being a normal kid, and it was kind of alarming to me at first, because I know how much my wife, all the energy and effort she put in to being a parent, and then have my son kind of not really acknowledge or miss her, I should say.
Yeah.
I'm sure he did, but it from my perspective, it seemed like he wasn't really registering it, and so that made it hard for me. But at the same time, like I said, because he was so focused on just being a kid, it made me focus on just being a parent,
right.
which has its good points, right?
Yeah.
So
did the time come? Was there a backlash to this? Did the time come when he realized, when it sort of sunk into him that his mother had died at a certain time?
You know what? It was like, maybe I would say like a month after the fact, or so. Roughly.
No, I was thinking of years later, even years later.
No, like he's been super cool actually about the whole thing.
Okay.
I mean, because we'll talk about her,
Sure.
a lot, and like one of the things is that I see in him is, like, he's very musical.
Right.
Yeah, that's one of the things, and he didn't get that from me. It was my wife that was, like, she was always the one singing, and she was always really into music. She was in a wheelchair too.
Yeah.
but she was like super musical, really liked to sing a lot, and so all that kind of passion
Right.
for
That
singing
would,
comes
that would,
come from her.
that would explain it. That would totally explain it.
Yeah.
You stayed with him.
Yeah, so that to me is exciting when I see him, when I see that elements of him of really liking to sing and really liking piano. It gets me excited because I realize, okay, that's a part of her, and that's cool.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
That totally explains it. So that explains it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to tell me to tell readers that they need to know about the life of a disabled person? I mean, you told me about what they need, but if you could rule the world as far as the disabled society is concerned, the disabled community is concerned, what would you do? What would you say is first and foremost that needs to happen in order for things to have some equilibrium?
Well, you've just opened a can of worms. We could go on for another hour.
It's a thing that I do. It's a thing that I do.
Yeah, I'm going to try to not go on for another hour. Basically, what I'll say is, my whole fight that I've had for the last 9 years or so has been about the clawbacks. I have my survivor's pension clawed back.
Why is it clawed back?
Because it's clawed back as unearned income. The provincial government here in BC says it's unearned income. So they say that pension, if you have a pension, like a survivor's pension, it's deemed unearned income, and they claw it back off of your PWD income assistance. And so that's one of the things I've really been fighting for, and that's one of the things that I just wish all these politicians, all of, whether it be the NDP or the BC Liberals before them, I mean, the idea that they can just turn something, because everybody and their dog knows that a pension is an earned income privilege, right? You earn it through work, and it's protected income. It's supposed to be protected income, and yet somehow the government is able to turn it into some sort of pink unicorn. That you have something that's an earned income privilege, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, sorry, this is no longer an earned income privilege, it's unearned, so we'll claw it back.
Is this money that you, like CPP, that sort of thing, that was accumulated while you were working all those years?
Well, no, the survivor's pension.
The survivor's pension is after your wife died. Yeah.
After my wife died, exactly.
Yeah, I have one of those.
And so I really don't like the idea that all these provincial governments can turn around and say a pension is now a pink unicorn. Like they have all these pink unicorns that they just pull out of their butts and say, well, now it's a pink unicorn. It just doesn't make sense to me that they can just have all these pink unicorns running around and saying, well, that's fair. And it's not. And so the thing I want to leave everybody with
is that survivor's pension, so that to help you, it's called a survivor's pension because it's helping you survive.
Yeah.
The death of your other half that was earning money and supporting the household, and now can't do that anymore. That's the point of a survivor's pension.
Exactly. So that's been like every time I do an email to the government, I'm always saying like, what is the purpose of a pension, of a survivor's pension? What is the purpose of it? Because if you claw it back, you're no longer respecting the purpose of it, right?
And so do you still get a survivor's pension and they still claw it back?
I get a survivor's pension, but what they do is they claw back the PWD income assistance portion of it, right?
Right.
And so because they say, the PWD income assistance is income of last resort, and they treat assistance like it's a charity, right? It's like it's not anything that you've earned. We're giving you this out of charity, and I think it's just wrong that you have all these politicians that for decades, for literally decades, it's been since 1996 that they started all these clawbacks here in BC. So you have all these pink unicorns running around, and that's my battle. Is that I just want people to realize all these pink unicorns, they have to die. they have to die.
Is this pink unicorn your expression?
That's my expression, because that's what it is.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
That's what it is, though. They just make stuff up. It's like, you know, they're not respecting the definition of something. Like, they're not saying, it's like, again, I've said in emails before, is like, you know, when you're married to somebody, you're not half married to somebody. You're either married to them or you're not. And when you're dead, you're not half dead. You're dead or alive, kind of thing, right? And all these definitions, their definitions should be absolute. And one of the absolute definitions is a pension. A pension is a pension, right?
Right.
You don't all of a sudden say, well, this pension is no longer an earned income. It's no longer protected income. We're going to just change it into something that's totally not what it's supposed to be. Yeah. And so that's what I mean about turning everything into a pink unicorn.
Yeah.
You know, and I just think, you know, government should not be allowed to do that. They should not be able to do that.
And that's a provincial thing, right?
It's a provincial thing, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've tried to turn over a bunch of stones about this, and you know, I've reached out to the federal government, and they say, well, it's not our deal. It's the provincial government that's doing it.
Right.
Yeah, they keep passing the buck, and then I've actually talked to a lawyer recently, and they said, well, yeah, it's written right into the legislation that they can do it. So, you know, and of course it's written into the legislation because they're the ones that wrote it, right?
That's right.
So
they gave themselves permission. Yeah.
So there's not a lot of accountability there. You know, they've already kind of slanted the table the way they want. It's a rigged game, right? Yeah. It's a rigged shell game, and I don't really think government should be able to get away with that. If something is defined as an earned income, it should stay as an earned income, right?
Yeah.
And if something is a privilege, it should stay as a privilege for everyone.
Right. Set it up, leave it there. Well, my big fear for basic income is that Patricia and you all will get it finally sorted out, and the government will finally go through, and then they'll lose the next election or an election, and the guy that comes in next will be, you know, someone like Doug Ford that says, "Whoops, that's finished." Click. And I don't know how to prevent that. I think that when you establish basic income, you need to be able to.
We have to codify it into the Charter of Rights.
Well, codifying something into the Charter of Rights is hard to do. But anyway, they have to do something.
Yeah, I mean,
because otherwise you'll have all this waffling with it. There'll be someone come in and will say, well, it doesn't need to be that much, or it doesn't need to be every month, or it doesn't need to be at all, or it doesn't need to be something. There was certainly somebody come in and want to mess with it, for sure. So it needs to be protected.
Again, you talk about the Charter of Rights. Well, there's the Section 15 that talks about that government should ameliorate or boost up vulnerable populations, right? And they include people with disabilities as part of the vulnerable populations. So Section 15A and B is a really key part of the Charter. But then I think it's Section 33 that basically it's a clause that basically says that government doesn't have to pay attention to any of that. They can just kind of it's like an exception clause or something where they can contradict everything in Section 15.